How's it going, everybody? I'm doing a little bit of work today. Working on my old trusty truck, BigBird. Anybody who knows me and BigBird come as a package deal. I'm having to put some wheel bearings and some brake rotors and pads and brake booster on it because it decided it wanted to go out. Can't haul no firewood if you ain't got no good brakes. So I'm gonna show y'all a little video on how to get all this took care of. I've been in and out of this thing probably 4 or 5 times in the front end, rebuilding it and doing this, putting ball joints in it, and I mean redone the whole front end on this truck. So I'll take y'all over here and show y'all what I'm getting into. This is the hub. This is your locking hub to engage your 4-wheel drive. Brake rotor, caliper, brake pads, upper ball joint, tie rod ends. I mean, anybody who doesn't know anything about cars, if you want to fix one and you don't know nothing about it, this truck right here is this body style, and a little bit prior to it be the one to start on, work on. Now, I bought BigBird back in 2017, March 16th, 2017, and I've done all kinds of stuff to it. I put new shocks on it. It's got heavy duty springs from the factory on the front, got heavy duty springs on the rear. Probably one of the heaviest heavy duty half tons I've ever owned. I can haul with this truck, and it barely even squat to the ground. But I put a set of brake rotors and pads on it in 2017. A year later, I had wore the pads out, so I put another set of pads on there, and they've been on there since 2018. The bearings have been in there since then too. Well, no, I had to tear the bearings out of it one other time because the cheap China-made bearings that I bought didn't last very long at all. And I give $25 a piece for them, and they still didn't hold up to my liking. But I took these locking hubs here off of an 80 model Bronco that I had, my big blue Bronco, and put them on here because the hubs that was on it before, they didn't stand up to spec. They were just wore out, or my specs. I've got a certain spec when it comes to something that I'm hauling 2,500 to 4,000 pounds around with every weekend. Since I cut firewood pretty hefty, I'm gonna put me some gloves on because this is a pretty messy job. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the hub apart. Now, I'm not gonna bore you with the whole taking it apart thing, so I'll be right back just as soon as I get all this locking hub and everything off. Alright, the hub is off. There's a snap ring that holds the locking hub to the axle. On these Ford style hubs, on the factory ones, there's a screw that also holds the locking mechanism for the hub into place to keep it from moving. So I'm going to take this screw out. I've got the snap ring out of there, and I'm going to move it back and set it off over here to the side. What I'm going to do, for people who've never done it before, I'm going to take the stuff and just set it in order of what I took it off. I know how to take them apart and everything like that, but for the ones that've never done it before, this is just for y'all, so that y'all remember. Make it easier on y'all. for you, those who were wondering, I've already took that screw loose. Now it is imperative that y'all remember how to put all this stuff back together, because I don't do house calls. If you have any problems with getting the hub out, when you go to take these screws that hold the outer locking hub part in, put that on there, and then take it and work it around, loosen it up a little bit, and then take you a flathead screwdriver. There's a little snap, a big snap ring in there, but I don't usually use a screwdriver, but I'm sure it can be done with one. But I've been using picks. Get that pick up in behind that, snap ring, just like that right there. You take that snap ring loose, and your whole hub slides out. I just take the screw back out, set the screw back over in there. Now here is where your special tools will come in. You don't have to have these. I have gone and done it without these, but it makes it a lot easier. This is a hub socket for four-wheel drive, old school four-wheel drive. It's 4-prong. You can get it at the parts store. Snap-on used to sell one, but now they don't. And if you find a Snap-on one, I'd be willing to bet it's pretty rare, because most people don't have them. I know one guy who's got one, because when the Broncos first come out from Ford, he was working at the Ford place. And if he sees this video, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about, because he showed it to me. You just take it, break it loose, spin the pressure nut out. I call it a pressure nut. It holds the pressure to the bearing. There's 2 different nuts in here. There ain't a whole lot of room to piddle with in here. Sometimes you have to work it out with a pick. That's your pressure nut. Now there'll be 2 different sets of these nuts. One doesn't have a nipple, and the other one that does have a nipple is up in there, and you use it to line up your washer. There's a washer in here. And this is the washer. See, the washer's got holes in it. That's what you line up. That's how you tighten it. And once you get it tightened down and in the right spec of tightness, you take it and line it up with that nut, and then tighten it down. This is your main nut that I'm taking out right here. It's the same, it looks identical to that other one. I'm talking about identical. I'm pretty sure this one, or the other one, is the one that keeps it from backing out. See? I've had some play in these bearings, and that nut is not exactly the tightest. But when you've gone 8 years hauling firewood and driving it back and forth every day to work and town to get feed and everything else for your animals, that's generally how it goes. I normally take them and redo them, repack them, but hadn't really had the time to get around to that. I normally do maintenance a little bit better on my trucks, but alright. You see that nipple right there? That goes on the outside and it lines up in that nut once you get it tight. And there's a nipple, I call it a nipple, right here. It's got to be lined up with the hub itself. When you slide it up on there, there's a slot in that axle. Now I got to get the bearing, outer bearing out. Nothing wrong with that bearing. Good bearing. I'll clean it out and coat it with a little bit of grease and reuse it later on when these bearings get hard to find. For those of you who are wondering, I order my bearings from Rock Auto because they sell Timken bearings. I prefer Timkens. I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that prefer this or that or the other, but Timken to me has always been good bearings. And I won't use any other brand. Now I've got to get the brake caliper off, brake pads off, press the brake pads in, or press the caliper in, and then I'll be right back in there with the hub. Alright, I've got the brake caliper off. I've got it pressed in. But remember, on these trucks, in order to put the truck in service mode, you have to tap on the inner fender right here 3 times. Then it'll enter into service mode. Just one of those things that y'all got to know about if you ever worked in the automotive industry. All these new ones is service mode. You got to put it in service mode. Well, that's WD's way of putting BigBird in service mode. Tap the inner fender 3 times and it'll work. Alright, now it's time to pull the whole rotor and everything off. There's a seal up in there that's a little bit of a booger to get out of there. And it can be a fuzz a bit aggravating to get off there. I brought my pry bar with me from work, but I really like to refrain on using that. But see, it's like that right there. All right, got that off. The inner bearing don't look too terrible. A little bit greasy, but other than that, I think it'd be all right. All right, there's a spindle bearing in here. I've got to take these 4 bolts right here off. Once I get them off, I can pull the whole spindle and everything off with it. I want to replace the bearing inside the spindle because those right there, especially on this truck, for some reason, I've had trouble out of the spindle bearing. Maybe this go around, since I put a Timken in it last time, I won't have any trouble. But won't know until we get in there and find out. I'm going to put new seals around the spindle bearing, keep water out of it. I'm also going to add a little bit of grease to it when I get it in there, and then just go with it from there. But after I do that, then I'm going to take and pull the seal and bearing out of this rotor. All right, after about 10 minutes of fooling with it, I've got the spindle bearing in. It's got a new seal. Got a new seal on the inside here. It's also got the new bearing right here. I took it and packed it in with grease. Now the way I pack these is I'll take it and dab it on there, kind of like this, and then take it, press it, push it, work it in. It's a needle bearing type bearing system. And then I just take it and put my fingernail on there and I'll spin it. Then I'll take it and add a little bit of grease right here on the axle itself, and then go with it from there. Put it back. Once the spindle bearing is in place, the spindle is up on the hub. Take and reinstall your brake caliper bracket. Okay, right there. You take your 7/16 bolt that's keeps the bracket from rattling. Take it and put it on, and it holds it in place, holds it stationary. Keep any vibrations from happening with this thin piece of metal. Now I have discovered that I have a crack in this caliper bracket on the metal right here. I will be looking for a way to do something with that, whether I have a friend of mine weld it or take it and find another one off of another truck. Now with these 70s model trucks all the way up to 77, they used a small bearing hub. 77 and up used a large bearing hub. Now 77 was last year for a Dana 44 axle on this particular truck. They swapped over to a corporate 10 bolt. GM did, I guess, to try and save money. Build it in-house instead of leasing it out to Dana to build it. So I'm not sure if those newer model brackets will work, but I do know that the 10 bolt hub assemblies like this right here do work, and you can swap it over to the big style bearing, which is supposed to help add a little bit of a load, or help carry a heavier load on the front end. But as y'all can see, I don't have anything on this front end to have to really help with a load. Although I did consider putting winch and bumper on here. I already have the bumper on a 3/4 ton of mine I've done a lot of work to it too. Hauled some firewood with it also. When I get this back on here, we're going to take and knock this hub out. Knock the wheel studs out of this hub. And then I'll show y'all how to get that brake rotor on that hub. And then we'll just reverse the process and put everything back together. I hope I'm not boring y'all to death with these working on vehicles, but if it has to be done, it has to be done. And bearings are, if a bearing fails, you can have a whole lot of problems. A whole lot of problems. And I try to keep my bearings up. It's one thing I really strive to keep maintained on my vehicles. They're just time consuming. They're not real hard. The first time I done this, I had a whole bunch of stuff break. So I had to replace these spindle studs, spindle bearing studs in here. Like I've never found them. I found some for a Bronco, for a 73 or a 74 model Bronco that worked. So apparently there's a lot of stuff on these Dana 44s, on these older models, that'll interchange between Ford, GM, and Dodge. And I would kind of hope so, because they're all made by Dana Spicer. So I got an elephant in the backyard blowing at me. Get this. Now you don't want to tighten them too tight. So just a good bump will be sufficient, because if it ever gets any moisture or anything up in there, crossing a creek or crossing Little River Management Area or hunting or anything like that, it can seize up, and then it'll cause more problems than what it's worth trying to fight with it. Now I tighten these down just like I do wheels. I tighten them in a star pattern. I would have brought my impacts and everything with me, but I decided I'd try and do it old school. If I don't have it on a rack, I always use this tire to come off the vehicle as a seat. Alright, now we'll take and start getting them bearings out of that hub. And alright, we got the studs drove in. I bought a drilled and slotted set of rotors for heavy duty pulling. I've got the bearing and seal in. I use a Timken bearing and a Timken seal. Spindles and everything's hooked up. Now all I got to do is slide this hub and rotor up on the assembly. Now, it's a little bit of a snug fit. can be just a tad bit aggravating. There you go, just like that right there. Slide right up on the hub. Now, I'm going to use my knee as a brace to hold that hub up on there. Now, this is the outer bearing. I'm going to use this outer bearing right here and take it and pack it good with grease. And just take it and roll it like that right there. And like I said, this is a greasy job, but once it gets done, you have a smooth riding, smooth rolling vehicle. I don't know about riding. There ain't nothing riding smooth on this truck right here at all with that heavy duty suspension. But get that grease in between the bearings. Just keep rolling it around, keep packing it. Just like it right there. Just take it and push it in the palm of your hand, push it around, roll it around. Roll it, push it, push it, and push it, and push it. Until it gets tied on and around in there. Now, I've had a lot of people tell me, well, I've had real good luck out of national bearings, and I've had real good luck out of SKF bearings and Precision and all of the Duralast and this, that, and the other. You just use whatever you prefer to use, whatever brand you prefer. Me personally, I prefer Timken. To me, they just seem like they got a little bit better quality. And I am not endorsed or paid by anybody. I'm just going off of my personal experience. Alright, now that bearing's good and packed. You want to make sure they're packed good, because if you don't, you burn up a bearing, wheel locks up or jerks you off the road, or you have a wreck or something like that. I am not responsible. Sit here doing this work under sweet gum tree, and sweet gums is alright. Then you take it and you hold it up in place and just slide that bearing right on up in there. And it'll hold that, it'll rest on that right there. You don't want all that grease out here on your thing, but you can take it and rub some of that that's on your hands around in there. It won't hurt nothing. Put a little bit in your splines. You know, just keep it greased up real good. And you can over grease these things, from what I've been told by mechanics, other mechanics. Trying to get this glove off here, and it don't want to cooperate. All that grease on me. You just take it and slide it right there, like that right there. I've been using my steering arm as my rag holder for the last 15-20 minutes. Now, to reassemble, put this and that and the other together. clean all this stuff right here real good. I'm using a little bit of gasoline. Just wash all that old grease off there. You're gonna try and get it as good as you can, or you don't contaminate that new stuff. I cleaned the inside of the hub and everything with it like that too. The way it would be clean when you go put it on. Now this thing's cleaned up a pretty good bit. You see that nipple right there? That nipple is going to face the outside of the truck. So you just take it, you slide it up in there, start it with your fingers. Once you get it started, which it can be a little bit of a booger to get started. There it goes. And you just take it and start it. I'm gonna twist it around up in there 4, 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 turns. I like to take it and run it all the way up in there with my fingers until I get it set. Pressed up against the back of the bearing. Like it right there. I'm gonna clean this grease off my fingers with a little bit of this gas. Then take it. I'm gonna clean this other piece off with this little lock washer. Clean it off real good. Clean it out. Set it right there. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna tighten this up. Alright. It's hand tight right there. I'm gonna take it and just put some pressure on it. You don't want it tight. Alright, now that it's seated up on there, take and pull it back off. Then back on, just snug it up. Alright. Now the fun part. Twist it. Twist it around. Just make sure that make sure that it's easy to turn, basically. I don't have any play right there, so I'm alright in that aspect. Now I'm gonna put this washer up in there. And luckily, the washer set right up inside the nipple.
Daddy, is this at least a cup?
Yeah, it's right up in the hub. Set right up on there, on that nipple. Now the next one is the back off washer, where it won't lock. It won't twist back and unlock. And then all your bearings and everything else come off of it. Clean it up real good. clean it up real good. And clean it off. Get all that old grease off of it, grimy dirt. Put it up on there. Like that right there. And then take it and just twist it on with your fingers. Grease off there. I keep sticking my fingers in it, getting it on there. I don't mind grease being on my hands. I just don't want to be in place. Alright, I finally got the caliper and brake pads on. They're being a little bit of a booger, and I'm not really understanding why it was being such a hard thing to get on, but I finally figured it out. This side is done. This is how you put all this stuff on. This is for a 73 to, I think, probably 79 or 80 K10 Chevrolet pickup truck, square body. Just give you a little bit of info about BigBird. I know some of y'all who watch me and don't know me real well. I bought BigBird back from 2017. I've been driving it ever since. I put a motor in it. It's a 350 punched out 30 over, which makes it a 355. The block is a Corvette block, 638 cast number. The heads are off of a pickup, but I had the heads machined and put 202 valves and 1.6 exhaust in them. It's run with a Tornado intake. I can't remember exactly the brand, but it's a cheaper intake. And I've got a Quadrajet carb on it, 4-barrel. It's got a turbo 350 trans, which I've had rebuilt twice. Second time it was rebuilt was because I stripped planetary gears and high-speed planetaries, and I rebuilt it this last time along with the help of Mr. Towle, which is a very, very good friend of mine, probably one of the best transmission guys in Etowah County, hands down. Transfer case is a new Process 205 gear drive transfer case. Got a Dana 44 front axle with 308 gears. Dana 12 bolt rear axle, which is a 8.875 truck rear axle with 308 gears. It's not positive traction. She's got rust. She ain't real pretty, but she gets me from point A to point B, and she's been one of the best Chevrolets I've ever owned. I've never been a Chevrolet guy. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not a Chevrolet guy. I mean, I've always been a Ford guy. I've got a 86 Bronco sitting over there with a 306 cylinder in it. Yes, I've still got my Bronco 2 that I had in high school sitting over there. It's got a wiring problem. I plan on getting to it at some point or another. It's just been on the back burner for right now. I also have a 74 F100 Ranger XLT. It's got a 302 HO out of an 86 Mustang in it with a C6 transmission. Now, it's two-wheel drive, but I use it also to haul firewood with, and I've got a 75 K20 3/4 ton 350 with a turbo 350. I've rebuilt that transmission too. There's just something about these turbo 350s that just don't hold up like a C6 Ford does, and personally, I'd rather have C6, but that's just me. It's got that F100's got a 9-inch rear end with 325 gears, and it's open differential. The Bronco's got 308 gears, C6 transmission, 306 cylinder engine. It's got 456,000 miles on it. Burning oil on number 1, number 5, number 1, number 3, and number 6 cylinder. So it's going to be about time for a motor rebuild on it. I just put a C6 in it. Swapped everything over from straight shift to automatic. As y'all can tell, I like working on the old ones. I sure don't like messing with the new ones. They just don't seem to hold up like the older ones do, and they sure don't get the work done like these older ones do. Anybody that really knows me knows how much firewood I haul. I mean, when I load a truck, I load a truck. And I use a truck as a truck. Now, I ain't scared to haul no heavy loads. You might get 25, 30 mile an hour because it tries to sway on you, but I work a half ton like you're supposed to work a 3/4 ton. I don't beat on them. I don't raw dog them. I don't run them through mud holes and this, that, and the other. I just drive them. Try and do the basic maintenance on them, and then I just hang them up. Well, I'm about to get over here and do this other side, and then I'm going to install the brake booster. When I get done with that other side, I may or may not show y'all how to install the brake booster. Just depends what kind of time I've got. So I got some stuff I got to get done this afternoon. Now, tomorrow, I may or may not give y'all a firewood cutting video. I might do it, and then again, I might not do it. I ain't decided yet. So, maybe if everything works out all right, I'll have it on, or I'll have it videoed. I know there's a lot of folks out there want to know, especially the ones at work, want to know just how I cut firewood, what I use, the tools I take with me, how I cut it, where I take it to split it, how I split it, stuff like that. Well, my splitter's down right now, so I'm not going to be able to show y'all a video on how I split it. I've still got to work on that too. But just as soon as I get done with it, get done with all that, I will have everything up and running. So, y'all have a good one.